Well, hi, everybody. It's Jen Carter, Vice President of Operations at Volhard Dog Nutrition. We have with us a wonderful guest today that is joining us from CBD Dog Health, owner and CBD expert, Angelina Ardolino. Most of you, if you're in our inner circle, you have heard this name before and you are familiar with their products. But I know that we have some folks out there that probably are just dipping their big toe into the lake and would love to hear some information about both CBD, about mushrooms. So today, with our little chat, we hope to make you more comfortable in choosing some supplements that may help your dog overcome issues that they're experiencing. That doesn't mean that just because your dog doesn't have issues that they cannot benefit from this kind of supplementation. So keep your ear to the ground and let's put our proactive thinking caps on and try to keep our dogs from ever even getting to the point where they have something going on and we get out in front of it. So, all right, Angela, I will not keep you from our audience any longer. Will you please share with us who you are, how you got involved with CBD Dog Health?
Oh, you bet. In 2015, I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, and which was pretty crazy. Sounded very scary. I had family members that had it, and I remember how scary it is. And I was offered a prescription medication called Humira, which is already been directly linked to lymphoma.
Oof.
I lived a pretty natural lifestyle. Like I literally clean my house with vinegar. I don't use any pesticides, you name it. And so I didn't want to go and add this pharmaceutical to my regimen. So I started to look for what was natural out there that could help me with my arthritic pain. I didn't even think about that I could possibly take something that makes it just stop or not progress, which I'm now finding that I think that that's what's going on. Because it's an autoimmune disease, and it's an autoimmune disease that I triggered most likely from stress. And that means that I should be able to reverse it, or I should be able to reduce the symptoms of it. So I don't even know how I started doing my research. I already knew a lot about plants and essential oils, and I'm a vegetarian. This is like my whole gig. So it's just kind of cool how it all came to be. And I discovered cannabis and I tried it. And not only did my pain go away, but my mood and my stress levels changed and my anxiety and everything. And I thought to myself, I feel so good. How is this illegal? How is this not a medicine? This is incredible. All right, let's see how I feel the next day. Yeah, there's no hangover. There's no side effects.
Wow.
The worst thing I have to deal with maybe is munchies, or getting the wrong, strain, maybe one that makes me sleepier and not active. So, a lot of learning. So that really made me wake up and start to pay more attention to this incredible plant. And at the time I had a regional, like, family living natural magazine. So I wanted to start reporting on it. So I found a group of moms called the Canna Moms who literally were treating their kids' seizures, cancer, you name it, with cannabis. And I would watch, one of my good friends, her son has a horrible disease called Dravet syndrome, which causes severe seizures. And he would literally be sitting there in his wheelchair having like a conversation and then go into a seizure. And I would just be like ready to call 911. And she'd calmly open her purse, take a tincture out, suck it up, open his mouth, put it under his tongue. And this kid would go from where I thought he was dying to sit up and within 30 seconds and having a conversation again. And I'm going,
wow. That's incredible.
How is this illegal? So I became very passionate. I'm from Florida. I became an advocate, fought very hard, to get it legalized here in Florida. And we did. And then I sold my business and threw myself into the cannabis industry because I knew I needed to be a part of it. I've always wanted to be, involved in something that was new or different. And it helped me. And I could see that it could help so many other people. So I literally hired the best consultant in the country, and I was his shadow. I went to every conference, every grow facility. I opened a grow facility in Compton. I know everything from, seed to sale of how this industry works. And it wasn't until I was invited to the inaugural class at University of Vermont School of Medicine's, they had their first program in the study of medical cannabis for its therapeutic benefits and biology, and I got to go. And
Wow.
that's where I learned all about the endocannabinoid system and how not only is it the master system, but that all animals have it. And I already am a huge animal lover. I have a rescue farm. I have natural grooming salons, and I knew this is what I wanted to do. I was like, I'm going to become the cannabis pet expert. I'm going to know everything. And then what was crazy is that vets were scared to death of it. Veterinarians didn't know if it was illegal. Could they even talk about it, use it? And this is back in 2016, so they didn't. So I started treating animals on my rescue farm. So old dogs with everything you could imagine. So that's where I should back up a little bit, because when I learned about that animals had the same system, I immediately went out to find a product. And I couldn't find one. I'd be at cannabis events, and a brand would put a different label with a paw print on the bottle. And that bottle would have things in it like xylitol and flavoring. And I would be yelling at them, get this off your table. This is going to kill the, things like that. So I was like, oh my gosh, do I need to make a full spectrum product? Because I learned how to do it in school. I learned what we need and how to extract and where we extract and what all the compounds do. So I just combined that knowledge with what I knew about my other favorite herbs, which all happen to be adaptogens. And these adaptogens, these other plants and fungi, why they're so cool is they all are interacting with this system we all have called the endocannabinoid system. So it all makes sense. And there's already beautiful research that shows when you put more than one adaptogen together, they become super synergistic and powerful. And there's no side effects. And it's all good.
Wow.
So
wow.
I'm a big fan of them.
Yeah, no. And this is why we have you here, because I know we get calls all the time. We have hesitant clients who want to do right by their dog. They want an alternative approach to something, but they're afraid, and so their experience with cannabis, whatever that might be, whether that was
I know
college indiscretion.
I know what it is. And it's that they bought a product on Amazon, or they got a broad spectrum product and it didn't do anything, or the dog threw it up. So yeah.
Yeah. Or that they're scared to death that something, contains THC. And what does that mean? They're going to have their dog, falling all over the place, walking into walls, becoming scared and aggressive potentially because they're out of control, and I get asked these questions all the time, and we do a blog. We have a blog that we put out that basically helps to guide people on what to look for when they're interviewing places for a product, right? How they do their extractions, what kind of chemicals are involved or not, what kind of plant, what are the strains, all of those things. And whether it's, a full spectrum or there's some kind of isolate thing happening there, and what that means, right? Yep. That's what I can do, because that's the extent of my knowledge. However, having someone like you here to tell us, this will kick it off, folks. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to throw myself on the chopping board here. I use both a CBD with no THC, and I use a CBD with THC, and I use them for very separate reasons. The CBD that I use with THC comes from a company out in California, and I have somebody that guides me based on the condition of my dog. I don't just, go to a local place and make decisions that may not be good. It's a reputable company, and I use that because I have a dog that is sound sensitive, and 4th of July and hunting season is basically trauma season for my dog. Yep. And I live in the South, and it's terrible. People love their fireworks and people love hunting. So I do not want, I've been recommended many times a prescription drug. But when I looked into this prescription drug, it lowers blood pressure sometimes to an alarming space. Now, okay, so I don't want my dog to die. Obviously, that does create an end game of she's no longer sensitive to sound. However, I don't want, you can only do that once. So I would like to have her around. So I started using CBD with THC during those high stressful time frames. For her, I will tell you my personal experience in a normal dosing, like I am not knocking her on her butt. 4 to 5 drops on the gum line, under the tongue. She licks them right out of the dropper. She knows she needs them. She self-selects.
My Doberman does the same thing.
Yes. And for her, it takes the edge off. Mm-hmm. That's what it does. Now, it's never going to take her fear away. Can't control that. But it's a coping mechanism.
Yep.
And I will tell you, this is a dog that used to run and hide under the bed, shake for hours, drool on herself, be completely non-functional. You couldn't take her out. She wouldn't go outside during July 4th season. She used to not go outside after 8:30 because she knew that it was getting dark and dark meant fireworks.
Mm-hmm.
Since we've been using that and other coping mechanisms, it's not just one thing, right? She will come and sit near me. She will shake and let me know that something's happening, but then she will settle down. She gets what we call magic drops. And then she settles down next to me and she's a normal dog. For other than Lucky, I wouldn't make her go outside.
Right.
But what a difference, guys. And I don't have to worry about my dog's blood pressure reaching some low level and then I have flatlining on me.
You're also not putting a synthetic drug inside her that her kidneys and liver have to now metabolize and get rid of and figure out what to do instead of healing and detoxifying their body. And my Doberman did the same thing. I had a Doberman and a miniature Schnauzer that were petrified. And I live in Tampa, the lightning capital of the world.
There you go.
We literally were all outside with all my dogs and lightning struck in my backyard 4 times. Oh. I literally was diving under a table with all my dogs. Right. So my dogs were like PTSD big time. Nina would, same thing, come and sit right next to me. And I would literally be like, look off in the distance. And I could see the gray cloud that she heard the thunder and ask for it and then go calm down. She would get a half a dropper of her calm, which is a full spectrum, which is what you're talking about. CBD with a little bit of THC and lavender essential oil, because lavender shares some of the same compounds. So they're very synergistic. So only half a dropper, about 6 milligrams of CBD did it for her. Odie, my 9-pound miniature Schnauzer, needed 2 full droppers in the beginning, which was 24 milligrams. But then after training, they get used to it. They're like, okay, still scary, but the world's not ending kind of thing. Like I literally would watch Odie walk around and be like, hey, I still hear it, but for some reason, I'm not as scared. Like I could see him battling it in his brain.
He's coping. He's coping.
Right.
You've given him support in the areas that they need it. And I'm a proponent of, you could always go to a drug. You can always go to it. If the dog is hurting themselves, if they're running away, if something's wrong, you can go to a drug. But isn't it easier to try in the natural course of things and to see what happens? So I use Calm from CBD Dog Health. I do. And it takes the edge off. I carry Calm in my bag all the time.
Awesome.
If we're at a trial and it becomes stressful, if something happens, boom, 1, 2, 3 in the face. And within, a few minutes, you can already see the eyes relaxing. You could just see their face relaxing, right?
All right, I'm making a commercial out of you.
I'm telling you. So this is why I want to share this with other people, because I think it's a healthy fear to not know about something and how your dog's going to react. No one in this room, you or I, is saying you should go out and give the highest dose and then hope for the best. Obviously, there is a process and there's an educational, procedure to microdosing until you find that nice threshold where you get the
Exactly.
reaction that you want without putting your dog in a stupor. It's the same thing you would do with yourself.
Yep. It's just like
Start
when your
small
dog
and
or
increase.
your doctor gives you a prescription for something and you go back the
Right.
next week and they go, "How are you feeling?" "Well, I felt a little woozy, I think it's too much." So they lower the dosage. It's
Right.
kind of the same thing. And I think what's most important is that people always want to know what the dosage is. And what they
They
need to
do.
realize is that every dog is different. Every human is different. We never know. We're reacting with a system that everybody's deficiencies in that system are different. So
Right.
everybody's going to react different. Somebody's going to need a lot more. For instance, I had an 16-year-old Chihuahua who was having grand mal seizures. And I had to find, and I took her off all her meds and controlled them with a full spectrum hemp extract with her heel. But I had to find her dose, and her dose
Right.
was 100 milligrams. And she was a 6-pound dog. I also had to wait till she was asleep, which is pretty easy with a 16-year-old dog, to slip it into her mouth to get it on her gums, because I already know that's the best way to get it in there, right into the bloodstream. And that's what she needed. And even after, I think I waited 3 months, and I was like, let me see if I pull back five milligrams, what happens? And she had a seizure. So her dose to the rest of her life, she lived to be 18, a little over 18, was 100 milligrams. I also watched this dog. This was my first experience with this. She came from a vet saying, "Hey, I got this situation. They want to put the dog down. I don't think the dog's ready, and I think you could do something." So I adopted her. I knew nothing of her personality, nothing. She would walk around and get lost in corners. It was the first time I'd ever seen a dog experiencing dementia. Know where to go and then forget and lose or just wander off. No eye contact, nothing. After, a month of her being on CBD, and we've a full spectrum hemp extract with CBD and THC, she not only did her seizures completely stop, I got her off all of her meds. She started making eye contact with me, giving me kisses, following around, reacting to her name. Like I would call her. I mean, it was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen, because this dog became a dog again. Like she wasn't even making eye contact with anybody before.
Right. I mean, you literally turned the lights on in the house is what you did. You just gave her a path.
And what happened is I know what happened. We've reduced inflammation everywhere. We've opened up communication. We've protected the brain. We've probably even regenerated something in the brain. They have so many receptors in their brain and nervous system, more than any other receptors. Like most pharmaceutical drugs, they target the G protein receptors, which there's like 800 of them throughout our entire body. Doesn't even compare to our CB1 and CB2 receptors of our endocannabinoid system, especially brain and central nervous system, where we've already been proven that dogs have more than we do. So this medicine, a hemp extract, works really good on dogs because they're so sensitive to it.
So that's a great point. You just made me think of something. So for the average person who's never done this before, right? They have issues with their dog, or they just want to be proactive. What makes, I obviously you have a company, CBD Dog Health. We're slightly biased in that way that, that you got the best product on the market,
a full
right?
spectrum hemp extract, extracted by supercritical CO2 extraction, which there are many people doing it right, is the right way. What makes me a little different is that I put other adaptogens in it or other oils in it that make it more synergistic, but there are a few others doing it right. And the only way to know what you're getting in that bottle is to get something called a certificate of analysis. So the hemp industry, what we've come up with is we put a QR code on our bottles. You scan them. It takes you to the batch number on the bottom of the bottle, which I don't know if you can see it.
Yep.
That COA will tell you what is in this bottle. That will prove to you that it's a full spectrum hemp extract, because you'll see that little bit of THC come up on it. It'll also show you what's not in it. because you want to make sure that it is, they could use a solvent that could still be in there that's dangerous. The good thing about hemp is that it's regulated. So if you're grown under the Farm Bill, it is grown organic, but nothing about how you manufacture it is necessarily regulated. So you could still get a product that nothing's been extracted, just like mushrooms. You've got to have that flower. And at a specific time, that flower has the most medicinal compounds active. That's when you want to harvest it. Then after we harvest it, we want to make sure we extract it so that we get all of them. We don't hurt anything. We don't miss anything. We don't take out the THC. We don't do an extra, just like food. We don't want to overprocess it. We want to keep all those medicinal compounds. There are thousands of compounds, not including the cannabinoids, which there's over 114 that they've discovered. But all those other compounds help those cannabinoids do their job. For instance, CBD does not bind with CB1 or the CB2 receptor unless you have THC. THC binds to the CB2 receptor first, and then that allows CBD to bind to it. So that is how important THC is. Getting rid of THC, I'm not saying that maybe you'll calm a dog with it. I'm not sure. I've never used one. I don't get it. It's an overprocessed product in my opinion. The reason they even exist is because if you wanted to get into the business before the Farm Bill, you just released a product with no THC in it. But a product with no THC in it does not stop seizures, does not help a dog with cancer or dementia or their gut or all the other things that we claim it does. It has to be. All that research is on a full spectrum hemp extract. That's what works.
That's outstanding. And what a great thing for everybody to understand. And I know that you all are going to have questions, and you can put that in the chat and we will get back to you and we will talk to you about all of those answers. And if we will get everybody's questions answered, I know there's probably a lot out there. Okay. So let's talk about the vets for a second, right? I go to my vet says, your dog has this, I'm going to give you that. A lot of pressure not to say no. And this is, I'm in the same place with the, raw food. So, you go to the vet.
That's why I love talking to you guys, because the struggle.
We've been there, education is a huge thing. And it's scary when the person you're talking to doesn't really understand it, so they shy away from it. Not trying to put the dog at risk, not trying to be mean. They just don't get it, so they don't feel comfortable going out on a limb and talking about it. As I always say to our audience, stop asking your vet to be all things. They don't have to know the answers to every question. What you want your vet to do very well is put your dog back together when they make a bad decision. So they need to be good at that, because you and I can't do that.
Right.
But we can find people like yourself, Angela, that are experts in this field who can talk about it saliently and help somebody through their obstacle and give them options. So keeping on the vet conversation, what has your experience been on how vets perceive the use of CBD or mushrooms? Because we're going to transition into mushrooms here in a minute. What kind of feedback have you gotten? Is it the same as the raw food industry, kind of fresh food? Yeah. So you're getting pushback. Your clients are getting pushback?
Yeah, exactly like you are, if not worse, because the people that are controlling the schools that teach our veterinarians is big pharma. So food is, they're pushing their food brands, but it's even more difficult to teach them, because imagine going to school and spending $250,000, $350,000 on your education and get out and say, yeah, you didn't learn about the most important system in the body, the endocannabinoid system that controls all other systems. And there's nothing, it's not called, it's not named after a pharmaceutical drug. It's named after a plant.
Right.
So at the beginning, never expected it. I never expected that I would get calls and emails on a regular basis with people telling me that their vet said THC will kill their dog. They literally did a research study trying to see how much THC it would take to kill a person. So of course they did the research on animals. Happened in 1973. It's called the Rosencrantz study. And they did it on rats, beagles, and chimpanzees. 2 rats. I'm sorry. Let me tell you how much they gave them. 9,000 milligrams of THC.
Okay.
Ungodly.
Okay. Which
Ungodly.
your animal, unless they got into somebody's stash, would never put that in their mouth.
It would be almost impossible. So that's how much
Right.
they gave these poor animals. So 2 rats in sleep threw up and choked on their vomit. So not from the THC.
Right.
No beagles died. No chimpanzees died. The chimpanzees within, I can't remember now, it's like couple weeks, couple months, completely metabolized it and weren't even high anymore. Like their body figured it out. Like their body was like, whatever. There's something called LD50. I don't know if you know that. It means there's no lethal dose. LD50. I forgot what the 50 stands for. So LD, lethal dose, meaning there is no lethal dose of marijuana that will kill anything. It does not correspond with the same receptors that the opioids do. So it will not stop your breathing or your heart. It just will go out of your body. You will just get high. That's it. Yep. Dogs get static ataxia. They just kind of wobble around a little bit and they sleep. And they heal in their sleep. And those that still believe that THC will kill their dog, I gave my dog 10 milligrams of THC every single night for 26 months, and it kept her alive because she had osteosarcoma. So nobody can argue with me. There is no recorded anything of anybody dying from consuming a cannabis. Now, when I say that, is it in a chocolate? Does it have xylitol in it? Does it have other ingredients in it? Does it have raisins, nuts? God knows what. A recreational dispensary. Have you been to New York City lately? It is the most frightening thing I've ever seen. Gummies aren't medicine. Right. Chocolates aren't medicine. You could make chocolate medicine, but what's at that recreational dispensary ain't going to do it. And your dog is going to have a reaction if they get into a stash of some sort, but as long as it's a pure product. That's so funny. Dr. Ruth Roberts and I just had a podcast for 420 about this, what to do if your dog gets in your stash. So I hear from veterinarians all the time who are like, the ones who know better. I have one that works as an emergency vet. He literally will come out in the parking lot and go, don't come in here. You're fine. It's so funny. I've actually been there when someone's dog, one of my shops is in the bottom of an apartment building, and I could see him down on the ground freaking out about his dog. And I came out and I ran out thinking he was having a seizure, had the heel ready in my hand because I've done that so many times, stop seizures on the street, in my store, you name it. And so I'm running out and I'm like, oh, this isn't a seizure. This dog's high. And I looked at him and he was high. And I said, there you go. Did he get into your stash? And he looked at me like, how the hell did you know that? So what I learned in school is CBD dampens the effects of THC. So,
I was just going to ask you about this. So here's what I heard, right? That if you're way too high, you've had too much THC, you take regular CBD without it or with a minimum amount of it in there, and it counteracts that and brings you out of it.
Yep.
That is truth. Preach, sister.
So get your little bottle of Heal and keep it in your pocket. And if you go to a recreational place and you get something because people need to understand at these cannabis conferences now, there are a certain group of people who are just trying to get higher, who are like literally making synthetic THC to see, they're like THCX now, to get it. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, we've gotten so far away from the medicine. Part of it. And it is the most incredible medicine. It has a whole system in our body named after it.
Yeah, that's great. Wow.
You can also, everybody learned something. Some of the other things you can do is that there's like lemons have certain terpenes in it that also dampen the effect. So you can suck on a lemon. So things like that you can, the other terpenes that are responsible for dampening that side effect. That's the only side effect, is that you get high. And in the high, if you've ever been high, the good high, that's the same good high your dog would feel if they were to take more THC.
Gotcha. Okay. So, with that said, let's transition into the other supplement that you've been playing in a sandbox right now with and talk about mushrooms.
Oh,
Now,
I
we're
love
not
mushrooms.
talking like psychedelic mushrooms, people. I know we're transitioning from CBD, but get
Maybe
your
next
head
year.
out of it. Gutter.
Next year I'll
We're
talk to
going
you
that's
about it.
right. We're talking about medicinal mushrooms, functional foods that you can add to your dog's diet in order to help be proactive or to combat things that need support. So, let's transition into mushrooms for a second so we make sure that we cover that. What is the difference? Tell us, because I'm very interested in this. What's the difference between wild mushrooms that are sort of growing in the yard, right? That everybody says, oh my God, don't put that in your mouth, right? And the ones that we're feeding that are medicinal in nature, that have been proven not to be toxic or, you know, so what is the main difference between those and how can you be sure of what you're getting, I guess?
Well, if you're going to buy them at the store, then you're going to pretty much know that they're edible and not poisonous. There's few that are poisonous or will make you sick, but on the most part, most of them can be used as a functional food or medicine. Some have more medicinal compounds than others, but if we want to talk about, that's what's so cool about them, is that they can be both a functional food and medicine. So if we're going to use them as a functional food, then, things like we want to make sure that the dog's going to eat it or that we'll eat it. Some people
Right.
don't even like, the texture of
Right.
them.
The earthiness, the dirt flavor that they have sometimes.
Right. So the best way to cook them, even for us ourselves and for our pets, is to grill them in the oven, put a little bit of olive oil on them, maybe a little bit of salt. After you grill them for like 25 minutes on 375, you can like chop them up or, even puree them, whatever you think your dog would prefer, and mix it into their food. And then I'm in a very intense medicinal mushroom certification course right now with an expert from Australia. And he literally says we should be eating 3 grams of mushrooms 3 times a week. And the same for our dogs, that they are that beneficial. They are packed with more B vitamins. They're a great source of protein, and you have to cook them that way, either whether grilling or in the microwave, not to destroy the proteins, the antioxidants. Chaga has more antioxidants than anything on the planet. So they're an incredible source of antioxidants. Zinc, selenium, copper, potassium, it's everything. It's like the most nutritional packed food. So I love them on that. On the medicinal side, so the reason that we're cooking them a little bit is that they have their outer layer, which is called chitin, which you want to break down a little bit so we can get the nutrients, but it's very tough and soluble fiber, and it's an incredible prebiotic. So it's incredible as a food. But you're not getting all of the medicinal compounds out of the mushroom when you eat them because of that fact. So you have to extract it. And you have to extract it just like you extract the medicinal compounds out of the flower of the hemp plant. You're extracting the medicinal compounds out of the fruiting body, which is the flower of the mushroom. So some mushrooms, you can get all of the medicinal properties by just doing a hot water extraction, usually 2 times. Some you have to do an alcohol extraction, like turkey tail and reishi. I think even chaga we do that. We can't get to those properties until we do alcohol and then take the alcohol back out. And then we do spagyric tinctures, which means it is alchemy, myco-alchemy. It is made at the same time. It's considered a triple extraction. So they literally take everything that's left over after they extract it and put it back in. It's very cool. It's so awesome. And our mushrooms are grown by mushroom farmers who grow them out in the Pacific Northwest on the wood or the decaying matter or the tree that they're supposed to be growing on. For instance, chaga has to be grown on the birch tree to have the acid that interacts with the endocannabinoid system that does all the things that it's supposed to do. binds, I can't remember if it binds to both CB1 and CB2 or interacts with both of them, but this is a mushroom that's interacting with the endocannabinoid system. Turkey tail.
So
We
very
all know
interesting.
about turkey tail and
Yes.
cancer. Well, there's 2 compounds that you have to extract. You're not, even if you were to eat turkey tail, which I do not recommend, it's too hard and not tasty, just like reishi, and you're not going to, although I know people who said somebody said their dog loves the bitterness of reishi, but I don't.
Yeah, pass.
Right. But all we want mostly out of those are those compounds, and you can't get those compounds unless you use that alcohol extraction. PSP is already used as an anti-cancer drug in Japan. PSP binds to the CB2 receptor.
Okay.
So every time I hear about a plant that has a medicinal property, it's either an adaptogen, or I can tell, or it's called something called I always mess it up. Cannamimetics, meaning other plants that have some of the same activity that cannabis has. Echinacea, passion flower are right under cannabis, as that fall in the number 2 and number 3 after cannabis. So it's pretty cool. But cannabis is number 1. It's not called the, endoechinacea system. It's called the endocannabinoid system.
Right. This is so very interesting because we're talking about things that are coming from the earth, right? Volhard Dog Nutrition prides itself on choosing ingredients that are whole food ingredients. We want to get as much nutrition from whole food ingredients. Obviously, we try to source those ingredients from places in the country where soil is farmed appropriately so that it's rich in the vitamins and minerals that we're looking for. We test our products constantly to make sure that they do meet the levels that we are looking for because sourcing changes.
Yep.
What a wonderful partnership to be able to then choose supplementation that is also coming from the earth in a really rich and organic way. And you're adding that to your dog. Would a dog, can you answer me this? Would a dog go and eat mushrooms on their own?
Absolutely. It's called zoopharmacognosy. This is the study of what wild animals do to help themselves when they get sick. They went out there. That's why we believe dogs have more receptors than any other animal or us, because they were out in the wild eating these plants, the seeds, the flowers, the mushrooms. They were self-medicating themselves. So to me, it makes sense. We're just going back to nature. I hate even calling it a supplement because
true.
It's
because,
just like how you're sourcing real food grown raised or grown the right way. It has to be in the right soil. It has to be free of these pesticides and herbicides and fertilizers. Same thing with these medicinal adaptogenic plants and fungi. Is if we just do it the way it's supposed to be in nature, we're going to get everything that we need. We can't grow it. What's happening in the mushroom industry is that most people are growing it on substrate, which is grain or oats, and they put the spores into the oats or grain, and mycelium grows throughout, takes over, and then it pops up a little thing called a primordia. Then they take that whole thing and grind it up and put it in a capsule and a powder. That's not medicine.
No. And that's the difference.
Body is the medicine.
Yeah. And so this is one of the things that we try to tell people when they're trying to pick a food too, right? Processing is so important because even if you start with something good, if you don't process it correctly, that goodness can never be realized.
Yep.
I tell this to people with synthetic vitamins and minerals and why I say to stay away from them.
Right.
Because this web, one of the themes that you've been talking about throughout this entire little session that we've had is creating a visual for us about how connected everything is. You mentioned multiple times, you don't get the most out of this unless it is introduced with these other things. Everything is web-like, right? I try to tell people when I talk about nutrition, about minerals, you can't push and pull minerals. There's either too much of one or not enough of the other. They count on each other. Everything is connected. You cannot screw with a webbed system because something is always out of whack when you've added something else, right?
Right.
So here is this conversation that you're having about mushrooms where they need a certain process in order for you to realize everything. this comes to a price point, guys. And I'm going to point this out because you get what you pay for. If you walk into
Always.
Walmart and you buy CBD off the shelf in some kind of treat, we're not talking about the same thing as CBD Dog's Health product.
Right.
I'm just going to tell you at the end of the road. Yeah. Did you pay $5? Okay. It's the same with essential oils. You can't walk into some place and pay $1.50 for a bottle of essential oil and expect that it's actually pure.
And
it's
you know what
you're
you're
looking.
buying? You're not buying a pure oil. You're buying a fragrance oil. And then you put it in your
Right.
house and it kills your cat or makes your dog sick. And you go, lavender
Right.
is poisonous to animals. No, it's
Right.
not. Mine aren't. Mine are grown on a biodynamic farm where everything is redone. The plants are 15 years old because lavender plants, the older they are, the more medicinal their flowers become. So all these things about these plants, everything that's all, they've changed. Because remember, we can't patent nature. We can't patent it and make $1 billion. So they take what works in nature and they take one part of it out and make it a drug. And all they have to do is prove that it does what it does, which they don't. And then
nobody goes back to test it. I mean, nobody goes back.
Right. And we don't know what the side effect is or how it's hurting.
Right.
We don't know what it does, but it's not doing what the whole plant or the whole food medicine goes. And mushrooms to me are just like where they're grown makes so much, same with hemp, but mushrooms so important. It's just like, do you want your grass-fed, grass-finished beef?
Right.
Do you want your, mushroom the same way? Do you want your mushroom growing on the tree or on the decaying leaves on the floor of the forest? Well, that's what we do because that's the way nature intended it in the first place.
Makes perfect sense. So let's talk for a second about stacking mushrooms. So in some cases, I've heard both sides of the argument. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Is it okay to pick a 7-in-1 and just kind of spray and pray and hope that I want to be proactive? So I'm going to give my dog 150 mushroom types and hope for the best. Okay. Or is it better to choose a mushroom that might work with the issue that you're trying to do, or a protective thing as a dog ages, or an immune compromised dog that might need some support, or to detoxify? Or is it safe to stack certain mushrooms with the idea that they're complementary to each other? Tell us a little bit about that and your thoughts.
I would always use a combination of mushrooms, not one mushroom by itself. If I were to use a mushroom by itself, I don't think I ever would. I would always at least put another one in there, probably reishi. I always put reishi with everything. Because there's already been research that shows that these adaptogens, when you put more than one together, it was actually done on mushrooms. And they showed one mushroom, what it did, 2 mushrooms, a little bit better, 3 mushrooms. Oh my God, it's incredible.
Okay.
That's how we even named what adaptogens were, because they are so synergistic to each other. I mean, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Osmosis Jones. It's the best movie ever.
A long time ago. Yes.
Chris Rock plays a white blood cell.
Yes.
Literally everything about the body. It's hilarious. So I always picture like the adaptogens getting in the body and being like, okay, yeah, you got anti-cancer. Oh, I do too. So why don't you go fight the tumors that are trying to form down in the liver? And I'm going to go, like, literally, I feel like they're because they literally spread out into the body and adapt your body to what it needs. And it's all, they're all working together to make it more powerful. So what I did was I started with the ones that I had the most research on, the ones that I knew I had already tried and worked, but I wanted to source them here in the United States. So I picked like 12 mushrooms and kind of concentrated on those because there are so many. But I still, if I can't find the answer in one of these, I still know of others that are really known for certain things, or I can look it up and then find, how to get it. So I work with mostly turkey tail, reishi, cordyceps, chaga, maitake, shiitake, artist conch. Did I say artist conch is beautiful? It's considered white, like a white reishi. So it has so many wonderful properties to it, but these are mushrooms that are grown in the Pacific Northwest that I can source and grow the way they're supposed to on a regular basis so that I can get
Beautiful.
the extracts from them and put them in a bottle with a couple other adaptogens like Bacopa monnieri, which is incredible for the brain, ashwagandha, astragalus root, also already known to regrow telomeres. So, and I basically put tinctures together, formulations together from what I see dogs suffering from the most. So sometimes they're dogs on my farm, sometimes my own dogs. A lot of the salves came from dogs, what they were suffering from coming into my groom shop, where I would get 70 dogs a day on a Friday and Saturday at my shop, and 85-90% were all suffering from something. And I was just like, they're weed. There's got to be something. There's got to be a way where I can go allergies, pain, cancer, let's do with this. And what's beautiful about these natural modalities is if you want to still stick with convention, you can combine them. It's actually going to help and not hurt. Or if you want to go one way or another, everything can be accomplished through holistic medicine. It's just, I just said this to my, two of my vets who've been holistic vets for over 25 years. I go, I'm starting to get to think that I can solve just about anything with diet, cannabis, and mushrooms. And they're like, yep. Because they're all supporting the body's ability to fight off whatever it is.
Well, I always say this in all of my lectures about nutrition is fruit of the poisonous tree. So if you don't have a good foundation of nutrition, if you can't out supplement a poor diet. So you have to start at the base on the pyramid of what a dog needs in order to survive and thrive in this world. The foundation of that includes nutrition, amongst other things. Right. But nutrition is the base. If you get that wrong, you're building a house of cards on nothing, right? Yep. And eventually, what I call fruit of the poisonous tree, everything that you've reaped above the already damaged foundation is poison at that point. Yep. You're not doing yourself a service. So just as you brought up, the reason why you and I are partnering today talking about this is because we push a good, solid diet as the foundation. You got to give your dog a fighting chance. You give them good food in, hoping for good return out, right? And if they're predisposed for something, you hope not to trigger the genetics that are involved in that predisposition.
Amen. I like how you said that.
Yes. So proactive thinking. We're not waiting until something happens and then trying to fix it. We're trying to keep it from ever happening.
This is exactly my thinking with my Doberman Nina when she got osteosarcoma. I thought to myself, well, if we know, 1 in 5 large breed dogs is going to get osteosarcoma, why don't we start giving it to them at 1 year old? So my board of advisors is a mix, about 12 experts, holistic veterinarians, all on it. I sent that out to them thinking I'd get some pushback. And this, of course, is them using the medicine for 5 years now. So they are big advocates of it now also. And they said, forget that. Do it at 8 weeks.
Yeah.
Because if I could stop Nina's cancer from spreading, and that's what osteosarcoma does. Within 4 months, it's got spread to the lungs and they're gone. I kept it from spreading over 2 years.
Right.
So that made me go, well, then maybe I could prevent it from ever happening in the first place. Right. Like, I feel like, would it have happened earlier if Nina wasn't afraid of thunderstorms and wasn't getting thunderstorm, calm every afternoon in the summer? If I'd given it to her, would I have been able to make it not happen at all? So that's what they said. And I agree with them.
Yeah. People come to me all the time and they said, I'm really bummed because my dog got sick anyway. And I look at them, I'm feeding them a good food and I'm trying to do all these things and they got sick anyway. And I say to them, imagine if you weren't doing all those things when that sickness might have descended. You might not even have gotten 2 years with your dog.
That's what happened to me.
That's what I tell people.
My first dog, miniature schnauzer, lost her at 7. No idea. Got the autopsy done, irritable bowel. Now remember, they knew nothing about diet, nutrition, endocannabinoid system. My second miniature schnauzer, I just lost last month, 16 and a half years old, because I learned a lot. And
There
so
you
I
go.
went from, I always say that I'm going to write a book that says how to not kill your dog or go broke trying to save it, because that's exactly what I did. I
Couldn't have
did
said it better.
exactly what my vet did. I didn't question anything. I fed the kibble. I did the vaccinations. I did the flea and
Mhm.
tick, and she was gone at 7. And I did not do that with my next one. And it was a world of difference. Even when I developed this tincture for him because he was diagnosed with degenerative myelopathy at age 9. It was either I cured
Crazy.
it or it was a misdiagnosis. So
Right.
I feel like things right now, I have a friend whose, dog at 4 years old has, experiencing pain and not using her back end. And she took her to the emergency vet and they did surgery. And I'm like,
I know. Happens
we
every
did,
day for us too.
we didn't even try anything.
I know.
We didn't even, nothing. And I'm like, I don't understand. And that's it. It's that fear of, oh my God, my dog is hurting and suffering and
Mhm.
whatever. And that's what I love the most about a full spectrum hemp extract is that I literally have this all natural medicine cabinet behind me that anything goes wrong, a dog gets in my yard and attacks one of my chickens, I can
Right.
immediately go get rid of that chicken's pain and stress and anxiety of what it just went through, which has happened. And I thought my chicken was dead. And I put a full dropper and she stood up and went like this and walked off. And I was like,
She's
just
like,
the
that
other
was bad.
day, one of my
Yeah.
like 10-year-old chickens is like breathing weird. So for like a month now, I've been giving her a dropper full of my breathe. And it goes away. So it's a beautiful thing to watch nature do its work. It really is.
And one of the great things, everyone that's out there, you know, Angela's done the work for you. She's not telling you you need to go out and be an expert in this. You need to go and learn. It's nice if you have the chance and the desire to go and read and learn and follow in our footsteps and become more well versed in nutrition and more well versed in CBD and in mushrooms. That's wonderful. It's good for you, it's good for your dog. But no one's asking you to be us. But you have this opportunity because we obviously need
We're
a hobby
crazy.
somehow. Yeah. Um, it's no problem. I've been told this many times and I'm
Me
okay
too.
with it.
Me too.
This is where I live. This is where my passion is. So I applaud you for at least having an open mind to saying, okay, look, my dog's liver enzymes go up. It's liver season. I'm panicking. My doctor wants to put my dog on Denamarin. Okay, before you do that, maybe consider something to detox the body, something to support the liver,
Yes.
and then retest, and then make an informed decision as to whether or not your dog's body has responded to that type of support. Remember, folks, your dog's body knows how to be stable. We just have to create the environment for it to do its thing. We have to alleviate the things that are putting oppressive pressure on the system and creating stress
Yep.
and inflammation. We can do that through support. It's not interference. This is not medicine. Medicine is interference. This is support. We're
Supporting
creating
own
the
body.
environment.
Yep. To heal
Yes.
itself. Yep. That's
Let
what
the body do what
body's
it
supposed
knows how to do.
Amen.
Yes. So, okay, as we're winding down on our time, I think I would like to touch on a few things before we separate. I know that everybody's going to be like, but wait, I have this question, but wait. It's okay. You can ask those questions. Please put them in the chat and we will get back with you and just pummel us. And if we don't know the answer, we will find you the answer. So before we start to come to a close, I wanted to ask you a couple of questions just to see if we can't answer some of the questions that came in. One of those is that says, can you keep your dog on mushrooms over a long period of time, or does their body become stale on that specific, supportive structure, and no longer is it effective the way that it started out to be in the very beginning? Maybe you can talk about that for a second.
So I give my dogs mushrooms every day, and I give them a combination of different mushrooms every day. However, there's a piece of research that just came out about lion's mane, proving that it regrew our telomeres and is a regenerative instead of a degenerative. And they tested, and after 2 weeks of going off the mushrooms, their brain went back to the way it was.
Wow. Okay.
So I think when it comes to brain, that I would stick with not only the CBD or the full spectrum hemp extract every day, but at least a mushroom tincture, my mushroom tincture Clarity, which I take every morning, because let me tell you what, I have the best days. I put it in my coffee.
There you go. I'm going to start doing that too. What am I thinking?
Yeah, you'll love it. I just had somebody try it, and she's like, #sold, made it through the 3 o'clock, where I want to go to bed. It's 7 p.m. and I still can't stop, but you really can tell a difference. It's just beautiful to study, research, and learn about something, apply it, and watch it do what you learned. And that's all that I'm doing. And I'm constantly like, okay, I learned about mushrooms. Let me go find it. Oh, I can only find, the only person that I can find is doing a powder, and they're being grown in China. Nothing against China. I just want to be able to source them. A matter of fact, I was sourcing from them and couldn't get things during COVID, which is what sent me into my frantic, let me find somebody else, and couldn't.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure we don't get any of our stuff from China, not for nothing. Like I said, I have nothing against China. However, we cannot control the quality that comes out of their
farm.
No. And so we don't feel comfortable.
Right.
We don't feel comfortable. I don't know if people know this, but you guys, 90% of your vitamins that come into this country, human, are all from China.
All from China. Most of the stuff on Amazon.
Yeah. So, and I listen, you have to stop, take a beat. You have to think about, if you're going to spend the money, be smart about it. Okay. Nobody has endless amounts of money. So when you have choices in front of you, choose a company that you trust. Choose a company that gives you information, answers your questions,
has the
comes
ingredients
forward,
listed.
Yes, transparency. This is something that we hold ourselves accountable for. We hold the people we partner with accountable for. We don't enter into partnerships with people that will not provide information to our customers, because we go to such great lengths to safety test, to analyze.
Yep.
We don't rest on our laurels at any time.
Yep.
And we're honest with our customers. This is what we're having struggle with. This is what's working well. This is not working well. We're listening to them. So I appreciate that about you, Angela, and about how you run your company and how you pick and choose the things that you do and provide that. And I'm hoping that our clients will be able to feel more comfortable knowing that you're doing your due diligence. That's super important. So
constantly.
Yeah, same
we test
here.
Everything. So we test everything several times to make sure. So it gets tested when it comes from the farm, and it gets tested again when it goes to the distributor. So it is tested more than once. And I have had, when I first launched, I had whole salmon crushed up into freeze dried. And I had to stop selling them, because instead of putting 150 milligrams on it, she was only putting 5. And the only way for me to know that is if I tested it myself. So
or you're surprised, right? Yeah, somebody else will test it. And this is the thing that Brian Berg, our owner, one of the things that he is very staunch about is he doesn't want to be the last person to know. He wants to know what's in our food. Somebody's going to test your food and then tell you what's in your food, and you don't want to be that person. You want to know what's there, good, bad, or indifferent. If it's bad news, we'll fix it. If it's good news, we'll celebrate. But that's who he is. That's how he conducts himself. It's very important.
That's what's happening. And that's what's happening to me right now, is that the mushrooms are grown in a certain way. They're grown in the wild, and they're wild harvested, meaning someone goes out and chops them out of the log or whatever. That all makes everything more expensive. And it also means I can't do batches of 10,000 tinctures. So it is small batched, handcrafted. I mean, it's what I would want for me, myself, and my dogs. So, and there was nobody else doing it. So I got to do it. And I'm very excited to do it with someone and keep these mushrooms farmers doing what they love to do, which is grow natural medicine. I love it. I think it's so freaking cool. And
It's
every
a game
day when I
changer.
learn, yeah, it's a game changer. And so many of these plants, everything that's found in nature, every pharmaceutical is based on something found in nature. And if I keep that in my head, then I say to myself, well, I'm going to try nature first.
Well, there goes, here's the rabbit hole of spirituality, right? And no one will go here with me. It's okay. I'm alone. But if everything on this earth is provided for us to keep us alive, we just have to figure out how to use it. Okay. And some of us over time have been better and worse at this. Okay.
Well, because we're kind of being brainwashed to get away from it,
Right. Convenience is the brainwash.
Yeah,
we want instant gratification. We no longer want to know how to get there. We want someone else to just tell me what to do. And we don't want
a good product that's not going to kill me.
And we don't want anything to derail the schedule that we've set up for ourselves. And illness derails things and disease derails things, and nobody wants that. So give me what I need in order to keep from getting derailed. Well, folks, I'm here to tell you that the only way to not get derailed is what Angela and I have been telling you today, is get in front of it and think proactively. The earlier you can start your dog on something like this and to be proactive in their life, keep them out of the vet office except for to do your double checks to make sure that what you're doing is correct and that your dog is on a good path. Do your best to create a sanctity for all of the genes and all of the cells within your dog's body, and use whole food sources, herbs, plants grown in their natural environment in order to do that. I think that we have spent a lot of time. I think I've learned a lot in this session. You probably have not learned a lot because you just got to share all that stuff. Yay me. So
I love to talk about it.
Keep it coming. But I think that our clientele will have learned a lot today. And I think that they're going to feel much more comfortable about embarking on this journey of this holistic space. Remember, Wendy Volhard always said, treat the dog holistically. You cannot just fix this without fixing that. It is a web, you guys. We've said it a bunch of times. Everything is interconnected. So you have to look for root cause. Then you have to support the organ system that is suffering from that root cause issue. And you have to let the body heal itself. That is our message today. This is about natural medicine, you guys. So you can always go to surgery. You can always go to drugs.
I am working on a book, but I went ahead and released because I literally realized I was keeping like a little chart of what mushrooms did what. And I'm like, I should share this with everyone. So like literally to this day, people go, my dog is having, issue with his bladder. So I'll just go, okay, these combination of mushrooms will work best. Or these mushrooms, if you can source them, kind of thing. So yes, you can get that on my website. I think you can either download it or purchase it. I can't remember, but again, happy to offer it to your people so that they can get it if they want to keep track.
And we're going to share the website with you. We're going to share links with you. We're going to answer your questions. So just plop anything that you have in there. If we didn't get to your question today because we were trying to share as much information as possible before you fell asleep because you're not taking your clarity, then, pop that question in there. And listen, CBD Dog Health is an accessible company. If you have questions, go to their site, ask them. Someone will get back to you. If you call, they will talk to you. If you email, they will write you back. They want you to be successful. We want you to be successful. If for some reason you can't get a hold of them for whatever, that would be a weird thing. You could always contact Volhard Dog Nutrition. We will always put you in touch with someone. We communicate all the time. So we're all after the same thing. We're all on team dog, you guys. That's what we're on. No offense to you as a human being, but we prefer the dog. So we're on their team first and foremost. And then if we can help you along the way, we will. So thank you, Angela. Any closing things that we missed that you would like to get out there before we part ways?
Nope. I just like to say heal them naturally. Find ways
Fantastic.
to support them naturally.
Fantastic. Well, this is a continued conversation. I'm sure as you are developing new products, you will be able to hear about them here first. We're going to try to get out in front of this whole thing, and we're going to continue to have this discussion. So thank you for your time today. Thank you
Jen.
for your knowledge, and we look forward to our next chat another time.
You bet. Thank you so much for having me.
You are very welcome.